Good afternoon. My name is Steve Klein. I'm the Chief Data Officer at Gardner Intelligence, and I'm here to talk to you about the most recent survey we've done on COVID-19 and its effect on the manufacturing environment. And we've had some interesting results this week. I think many of them being driven by the fact that we had about a 10 percentage point decrease in the number of manufacturers that were serving the medical industry this week. So I think when we look at this week's results versus last week's results or the week prior results, what we're seeing is really a difference between what is happening in medical manufacturing and what is happening in the rest of manufacturing. So, when we look at changes experienced by businesses, by manufacturing businesses during the week of April 13th, one of the most significant changes that we saw was that standing orders being either postponed or canceled, the percentage of manufacturers experiencing that increased significantly, up close to 62% in the week of April 13th versus just 52% the week prior to that. We also saw a significant change in business practices, whether it was payment terms or doing business without purchase orders. More manufacturers were experiencing that change as well. And I think both of those changes were being driven by the fact that we had fewer companies serving the medical industry in the most recent survey. You can also notice that a number of the other changes experienced by business all declined in the most recent week of the survey, the percentage of manufacturers experiencing those changes. And I think that's because some of these manufacturers are now sort of getting used to that environment and the most rapid amount of change has happened. So everybody's becoming accustomed to sort of the new normal. Now let's look at the impact of these changes on manufacturing businesses. And one of the things we see is that the changes in standing orders are having a slightly more severe impact on manufacturing businesses. Note that the percent that responded the standing orders were having a major impact on their business increased in the most recent week. However, the change in business practices has become less severe. We had a reduction in the percentage of manufacturers indicating that that was having a major impact and an increase in those that were saying it was having a minimal impact. So business practices are having less of an impact on the business. And then many of the other changes actually had a decrease in the major impact and an increase in the minimal impact. So we see a softening in the severity of these changes that manufacturing businesses are experiencing. Now let's look at the adjustments that manufacturers are making in response to these changes. And one of the things that we notice is that because of a reduction in orders, many manufacturers are making adjustments to the things that would correspond with that. Obviously, budgets and spending, more adjustments being made there, as well as hiring and recruiting, training, and manufacturing processes are where we're seeing the biggest adjustments, most significant adjustments being made by manufacturers. Of course, with reduced orders, manufacturers need to adjust their spending somehow, and they're doing that by changing their hiring and recruiting practices as well as their staffing changes, and that is necessitating then changes in training to either cross-train employees or train them on new processes, or they're adjusting their manufacturing processes themselves because they have fewer people or people without the same sort of skill set involved all the time. So these are pretty significant changes that manufacturers or adjustments that manufacturers are making. Now we can look at the severity of those adjustments. And one of the things that we see, right, is that budgets and spending has increased significantly in the major impact on manufacturing businesses. So a more severe impact when it comes to cost cutting. We also noticed that training has increased in its severe impact as well as changing manufacturing processes. So the nature of getting work done is becoming more difficult for many manufacturers, particularly those outside of the medical industry. And while we didn't see a lot of change in the adjustments to production and capacity and staffing or headcount, both of those adjustments also increased in the severity of their impact in the most recent week of the survey. So while manufacturers are generally experiencing less change to getting things done, it's getting harder and harder for manufacturers to get work done. Now, a couple other things that we noticed in the most recent week of the survey is that fewer manufacturers were open expanded hours, and a significant amount more were open reduced hours or even closed in some cases. And then when it came to staffing, we also saw that there were many fewer manufacturers using significantly increased staffing, which was mostly from the medical industry. And then a lot more manufacturers have dramatically reduced or significantly reduced their staffing levels. So we're seeing significant reductions in staff. Now, some of this is obviously due to a decrease in orders. Manufacturers don't need as many employees if they don't have as many orders coming in. But we have also heard that there have been some challenges for manufacturers getting access to the Paycheck Protection Program, and that may have contributed to the reduced staffing as well. So with that, we've really looked at all the results from this week's survey. You can see more comments and more charts at our blog, GardnerIntelligence.com. And on the homepage, you will see the latest blog post that is to this video and this week's results. And you can also find more information on things that are affecting manufacturing and changes that are happening in manufacturing due to COVID-19.